Space Godzilla. Oh, who is the monster who ate a star? That flying monster in the Godzilla versus Kong art book. What? This is the part of the Godzilla talk stuff that drives me nuts sometimes. Yeah, there's been a lot of crazy talk regarding the movie, and I can just kind of want to come in, just maybe give people a friendly reminder and just kind of put all things into perspective. There's a lot of confusion going on out there, and I think it's leading to some absurd expectations. And you guys have known I've always been the kind of guy that just tries to not ruin your fun, but temper expectations when it comes to certain things, because let's face it, it never plays out the way we think. I mean, here we are 11 years later. We've talked about so many different Toho monsters. We've gotten none of them. In fact, what's more interesting is knowing that it appears that Legendary, if they get the rights to another Toho monster, it's on a per movie basis. It's not on, okay, we bought the rights so we can use it for the whole series. Apparently that's not how this works. So one of the things that was interesting was when we learned about Mothra being in this movie, there was a monster that was supposed to be there called Phosphora, I believe, and according to Adam Wingard, it was never intended for that to be the primary monster. That was like a backup, because his intent was to always have Mothra. He said in the interview that they were never sure if they were going to get Mothra for the movie, so he had to come up with a backup plan, but his intent was that was always supposed to be Mothra. So I thought that was interesting, because that lets on that this is not a sure thing per movie. And I think that makes it more difficult for them to make the investment, because if they build a story around a certain Toho monster, be it a villain or a good guy like Mothra, then you put yourself into a corner of where you have to provide it for another movie. And it made it interesting even for me, because one of the things I said coming out of the weekend was, man, I kind of feel like they set up like almost like the pseudo Monsterverse Avengers. But now realizing that they get these monsters on a per movie basis and they have to literally pay per movie, it wouldn't surprise me now if Mothra never shows up again. It's like, so maybe that won't be the case. And I think that's something we need to take into account when we think about future monsters from Toho coming into the Monsterverse, whether it's for the next movie, which is the last movie, or whether it's for a future series or whatever. However, to be optimistic, I did read an article where they talked about there is some small potential to have some Toho monsters on Monarch television shows should they get to another season. So I think that's one thing that is good that everybody kind of understands. Like, yes, we all want to see certain Toho monsters. I myself am a big advocate for Destroyer, and I still believe that if we do get another Toho monster, it's probably going to be him, and that probably will seal the deal. But it does put things on a different perspective, because it now makes more sense why we haven't seen a Rodan again, or it took us this long to get Mothra, or why they haven't followed up on Ghidorah beyond Godzilla vs. Kong, where he's essentially used as a proxy to control Mechagodzilla. And then furthermore, did Legendary have to pay for that? I mean, technically they showed a Ghidorah head, that was about it, and they used him by name. But interesting stuff. All right, so the other thing I want to cover here is the monster that ate the stars. So a lot of people seem to be confused about this in more ways than one. Number one, who the monster is, and number two, how did they eat a star? So just to make it real simple and clear, in the movie when they talked about this, they were referring to Godzilla, who is the monster who ate the star. If you remember that scene where she's reading the hieroglyphics, if that's what you want to call them, she mentions that Godzilla was the sole monster that defeated the Scar King, as well as those apes, the renegade apes, if you will, and I'm assuming as, of course, Shimo as well. And when she described that, it's not like it's not to be taken literally. Godzilla did not actually eat a star. It was the Iwi's interpretation of seeing his atomic breath for the first time. It wasn't anything that has to do with him eating anything. But essentially, when you consider he's made of radiation, not that they would, well, whether they knew that or not, because they seem to be fairly technologically advanced, and then he shoots it for the first time, yeah, it looks like it's a bright light, blue, and that's the best way they knew how to interpret it. I don't think it means anything more. It's not supposed to have any deeper meaning. It's just an interpretation of how the Iwi saw Godzilla using his atomic breath for the first time. And I also think it was interesting that Godzilla was the sole person to defeat them many years ago. And that makes sense. Kong, I don't even think would be around by then. So yeah. So now the other thing is Space Godzilla seems to be coming up again. This has been the most fascinating thing in the last probably 4 years, since shortly before Godzilla vs. Kong. Space Godzilla, when I started doing this channel, Space Godzilla was never considered to be even a B-level tier kind of villain. In fact, from my experience, again, this is not everybody, but in my experience, doing the channel, talking on forums, Space Godzilla really wasn't that popular. I knew a couple of people who really liked the monster. Chris Kuipers is a huge Space Godzilla fan, Goji fan 94, and so yeah, I've been finding it interesting that this has become almost an obsession. Now, I did a video earlier, whether you saw it or not, where the artist who actually created Shimo for the movie confirmed that Space Godzilla was never a thing. Space Godzilla was never intended to be in the movie, was never discussed, and Shimo was never Space Godzilla in concept or whatever. Now I'm seeing the name pop up again for sequels, and I kind of feel, I get it, okay? We don't know what's going to happen in the sequel. Can you argue that there's a chance for Space Godzilla in the sequel if they decide to go the alien route? Sure, you can argue that. But I think the idea that a lot of people are taking this star monster, Swallow the Star monster, with the art book, which shows that flying monster from the Godzilla vs. Kong art book, and then kind of somehow mending this all together to mean that Space Godzilla is on the horizon. I'm not seeing that. I'm not sure how you actually get to that. First thing is, while I thought it was great to see some of the things from the art book of Godzilla vs. Kong make it onto the screen, even though to a less degree, and then even I believe in Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, I believe the Frostvark is in the book, but I'm not 100% sure. But I'm fairly sure Frostvark was in the art book as well. I think that's cool. I think that's them using assets that they already created in an attempt to save money. It's very wise. It's very clever. But I still don't see how you get all that from that picture. I believe the flying monster was a first concept of Shimo. That's how I see it. And of course, we already have the answer to the monster that swallowed a star. It is Godzilla, and it is this a description of the best way that Iwi know how to describe what they saw when they first saw Godzilla use his atomic breath. It's really nothing more than that. So these are the things that are pretty important, because I believe when you go down a rabbit hole like this, you're gonna start developing expectations. Look, I'm not gonna be shy about it. There's a channel, War Stew. We've talked about it a lot on stream. I'll bring it up here because this guy's been talking about Space Godzilla since Godzilla vs. Kong, and it has not come to fruition. The fact that he continues to bring it up without anybody calling him out on it is amazing to me. But again, in terms of talking speculation and stuff like that, that's fine. I've done that. But I guess what I'm saying is he has talked about this so much for the last years, not in speculation, but in, oh, this is what's going to happen. This is what the monster is. He was proven wrong, obviously, with Godzilla vs. Kong. He was proven wrong with this movie. Somebody who actually worked on the movie has confirmed that that's never been the case. And now he's moving that narrative into the next movie. Again, yes, Space Godzilla could possibly come, but how much do we know about any sequel that gives us that much confidence to say he's going to be in the next movie when we haven't even gotten a sequel confirmed yet? It's not like they have a script ready. you know, Adam Wingard has mentioned all these ideas he has for a sequel. Not once has he mentioned Space Godzilla. So it's just, these are the things that you need to keep in mind to kind of not let your expectations go through the roof, because again, I'm an advocate for the series to move as far as it can before it hits its limit. And one of the ways that that can be ruined is when people have certain expectation of what's to come and it does not happen. And that can ruin a movie. You know, yes, it is the studio's job to deliver in any way, shape, or form something that's entertaining, something that we want to watch and that we enjoy. But sometimes we have to be a little bit more responsible about what we're putting out there and the kind of expectations we're setting. And that's why I always make it clear, like when I do videos like that, like you're gonna see in the coming days with my ideas for sequels, I'm going to emphasize that I am speculating, that none of this is fact, and the chances of any of it happening are slim to none. It's great to be right by accident, but I'll never sit there and claim to be right about anything. I don't have any insider scoop. This is a hobby for me. You guys know that. And I enjoy everything outside of my hobby in terms of my job, my life, you know, that's important to me. So, but I understand this is a job for a lot of people, or a lot of people trying to make a job. But I do think setting expectations by continuing certain narratives could have the potential to be damaging. Thankfully, 9.5 times out of 10, it never is. I mean, you have to have some major reach to be able to impact anything like that. But I still think it's, you know, I love my viewers who are, you know, I have a small channel. I love the fact that it's small. It makes it easier for me to interact with people. And I love them. I respect my viewers too much and just feed them bullshit. So when I see a channel that's more successful than me or bigger than me going out there and spewing things like that, it's just complete disrespect to your viewers, especially when you've already been wrong and you still continue to push a narrative and insist you're right. So I just want to come out there and say, know what's what, that is there a chance we get Space Godzilla? There's always a chance. We don't know. But at this point, as far as I know, even from people that worked on the movie and just from looking at media, Space Godzilla was never a conversation, as you know what I mean? And just want to kind of put that out there. I say we have fun speculating on whether or not Space Godzilla will be there. Speculation is different from telling people that it is either a sure thing or that it might be a thing. But telling a story and giving your idea and speculating, oh, well, you know, this is why I think Space Godzilla is going to be in it because of this and this. And this is just speculation. I'm not saying this is what I think. That's the best way to approach it. So, but it would be crazy if Space Godzilla did show up, because for some reason he seems to have a lot of fans now. These fans were not in existence years ago. Space Godzilla did not come up like this years ago. So the fact that he's so front and center now to me is like really weird. But you know, I give credit to Warstu for that. He has been talking nothing Space Godzilla for the last couple of years. I just wish he'd be a little bit more upfront about the fact that maybe it's something he wants. Maybe he's a big Space Godzilla fan and he wants to see him. And I think it would do good for him to just do speculating videos. You know, say, hey, I'm a big Space Godzilla fan. If this is what I like, and this is how I would do it, but doesn't mean it's gonna happen. So anyway, that's it. Just kind of like my PSA. And you know, but I do think we'll find out more soon on a sequel. I don't think they're gonna leave us hanging for a year. The iron's hot right now. I feel pretty confident that maybe after Godzilla X Kong has its run in theaters, that we're probably gonna see some information drop on a potential sequel. So, but anyway, that's it. So let me know in the comment section, you know, how you feeling about things right now. What are you seeing out there? Are you seeing anything other than what I mentioned here? The star situation, people misinterpreting the art book, people having high expectations of a Space Godzilla. Is there anything else crazy you're seeing out there? Let me know in the comment section. Maybe something we can discuss on the stream Friday. And until then, I will see you guys later. This is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.